Hi guys, it's James here from Oz Powerbanks. Today we're just doing a quick guide video on powerbanks and CPAP machines. We get a lot of calls from customers trying to find out if there's a powerbank solution for their CPAP machine. They may want to go on holidays or a road trip or something and they don't have access to power at times and they want to know, can they charge it? How long can you charge it for? So we thought we'd do a quick video just to answer, I suppose, some of those basic questions that we get asked a lot. We've got two power banks here that are sort of suitable for travel, and when I say travel, they're a little bit more durable. They got rubber around the outside, so good for camping, outdoors, that sort of thing. But both of them will have a 12-volt output. Now this is quite important when it comes to CPAP machines. Most CPAP machines on the market, most manufacturers of CPAP machines will offer a 12-volt charging function. So as well as your 240 volt into the wall, you can get, so for example, I've got a ResMed CPAP machine over here, and ResMed offer basically this setup. Now this CPAP machine has a humidifier and also a heater built into it, so it's a little bit more high spec than a lot of CPAP machines. The voltage on it is a little bit higher as well. This coming out of the wall would normally need 24 volts. So what ResMed offer is they do a step up for it. So it still goes into your standard 12 volt socket in a car or power bank, and it ramps it up to 24 volts. So that's probably the first step if you're looking for a power bank and you want to find out if your CPAP machine is going to be if it's going to be possible to charge from, say, these two power banks. You need to first make sure that you can get a 12 volts charger. That's the first thing, and as I said, most will supply that. Most manufacturers will actually supply that. Now another big question we get asked is the run times. That's another important one. You're away from power, obviously when you're at home and you're plugged into 240 volt, the runtime is not an issue, it's just constant power. Power banks are different. They're going to eventually run out of power once you use it up. So a very important thing to find out is the power consumption of your CPAP machine. And again, for example's sake, I'm going to take the ResMed. Now, you can use this in a few different ways. This has varied power consumption on it. So for example, if you were just using the pump on this source part of it, the consumption per hour would be 7 watt hours. That's what it uses, and that's quite important to try and figure out what your runtime is going to be based on the size of the battery. And what I mean by that is, so for example, this is a 48,000 milliamp power bank that we've got here. This is a 96, so this is double the size. The watt hour rating capacity on this is about 150 something watt hours. This one is double. It's over 300. So to figure out how long your CPAP machine is going to run from one of these power banks, obviously first you have to make sure it's got the 12 volt charging source. But once you find out your watt hour rating, and it's easy to do, you simply go onto Google and just look up probably the site. It'll give you a consumption guide based on your model. They all do. Like for example, the ResMed here, I just printed this earlier from the internet. Now this Air 10, this ResMed Air 10 for example, when just the CPAP is running on its own without the humidifier, it's using 7 watt hours, so that's basically 7 watts per hour. You divide the 153 by 7 and you basically come up with a figure of around 3 days. So that is about 22 hours. So this just running that portion of it's going to run for about 22 hours. Now when you start to use a humidifier or even a heater, your watt hour consumption is going to go right up. So with this ResMed, for example, it jumps from 7 watt hours. Just with the humidifier, it jumps up to 22. So every hour it's using 3 times the amount of power. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you were camping, for example, and you wanted to use the humidifier, and based on, say, this 48,000 milliamp power bank that outputs 150 around that watt hour rating, if you're using the humidifier, you're only going to get about 7 hours, max 7 hours. So it's going to just about give you a night. The 96,000, it's going to double that. It's going to give you, say, 14 hours. Another part to this ResMed as well is it also heats the air. So if that's another function you need, it increases the watt hour rating again. And anybody familiar with this machine will know it's all in the settings. You can turn things on and off. when you're using the heater as well, so for example, the pump, the humidifier, and the heater, this is using 35 watt hours per hour. Now, that worked out is probably only going to give you about 4.5, 5 hours of runtime with this 48,000 milliamp. Again, with the 96, you're going to double that. So on the 96, you're going to get roughly 9 hours. So you'd get a full night on this if you're using all the bells and whistles on this. So this is why it's important to go to your manufacturer's website to get the watt hour rating. The conversion is very easy. You roughly divide the size of the battery by the watt hour draw of the device, and that will tell you roughly, with a little bit of loss, it will give you roughly the runtime. Also, another important thing with these power banks when you're away from power, camping, hiking, four-wheel driving, is how do I recharge the power banks? Now, each of these power banks have two inputs. So you have a DC, which is a wall charger. So you can charge these up at home with normal 240 volt. So you get that in the kit. You can also recharge these power banks using USB-C. Now USB-C, if you're not familiar with it, is just a much higher voltage of USB. So it's quite quick to charge these up. You can charge at about 20 volts, which is pretty much what you're going to get, maybe even a little bit quicker than the DC connector on there. As far as using the USB-C, this can be used from any USB-C wall charger. We do sell, with these you'll see on the same page, on the product page, there is a car charger available. It's quite a cool little device. It's a USB-C car charger. It does have normal USB-C or USB on there as well, but it has USB-C. It does up to 60 watts. Now the beauty about this is you can actually recharge your power bank as you're traveling. So if you've got a spare cigarette lighter adapter in your car, you can plug this in, and just with a normal USB-C cable, you can hook it straight into the power bank, like so, and it can be charging when you're traveling between destinations. Another good thing that this does is it doubles as an extra USB-C. So if you had a few USB-C devices, just say you had a couple of laptops, most new modern laptops now are charging from USB-C. This power bank only has one USB-C output. The input, it's an output and an input. But if you wanted two, you can take this adapter if the power bank isn't being charged, and you can place it into one of the cigarette lighter to 12 volt outputs, and all of a sudden you've got an extra USB-C output and also an extra USB-C. You do have two standard 2 amp USB-A outputs on this as well. So it's good not just for CPAP machines. If you're hiking or camping, as I said, or outdoors, there are other things you can use it to charge, like phones, cameras, anything like that. So you have the USB-C option to charge. You've got your wall charger. This also can be charged via solar panel. So if you have a solar panel, you'd probably want to be looking at something in excess of about 20 watts to charge it. But if you've got a solar panel that has 12 volt to 24 volt, you can also charge it via the DC input. If you have a solar panel that can do USB-C, equally you can charge through that as well. So overall, these are going to be a useful little power bank if you want to keep a CPAP machine, but it's also just a good one to have in your outdoor kit for charging laptops, phones, everything else. If you've got any questions, please leave some comments in the section down below. And if there are any questions, we'll try to get around to answering those. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.